Yeah, I took the dog out and
Call the commission meeting to order, and the Vice Mayor Johnson will lead us in our invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Shall we stand? Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity tonight to be here to do the business of the city. Thank you for this new year and the 80 degrees that we had one day and snow the next. Continue to bless us in everything we do. Amen. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Here.
Commissioner Garver,
Here.
Commissioner White,
Here.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Here.
Mayor Lamb.
Here.
Let me do it that way because it's getting.
You had in your packet the minutes from our December 6th commission meeting. Are there anything we need to change on those?
Move to approve.
second.
We have a motion and a second to approve our minutes. Roll call.
Commissioner Baker,
Yay.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. Our next item on the agenda is comments from our citizens. And I want to clarify that these comments do not include the one item under unfinished business. We will have a public hearing for that particular ordinance, 1103. So these comments are those in general that you would like to share with us, or anything about the rest of the agenda. You can give us your name and your address.
David Bartow, 11901 Meadowview Road, Georgetown. I just wanted to thank the City Commission and thank City Manager Hines for the partnership between the city and the Collegedale Tomorrow Foundation on the tornado relief. We shipped up 2 semi-truckloads of clothes, toys, food, other necessities to Lake and Obion counties. And tomorrow we're cutting a check for $11,000 and we're sending that up there too. So we couldn't have done it without all the help from Eric Sines, Officer Young, Ashlyn, and everybody else. So just wanted to thank you all, and the folks in Lake and Obion counties really appreciated it. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for heading that up. Okay.
Hello, my name is Zoe Grimes. I live at 8624 Shirley Drive. I also came to talk about tornadoes, but completely opposite direction. I've worked in Collegedale for a few years, but I only recently moved here. And I came to talk about storm preparation. Now, before I moved here, I lived out in Jenkins Road area. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with what happened in Easter. It was totaled, completely wrecked. Looks like an alien world still. And with the tornado watches that were happening over the past few days, I started researching what our preparations and plans needed to be for the people in my household. And I discovered we don't have a municipal shelter. Now, I know that Collegedale likes to prepay for buildings before they buy them, and that building a municipal shelter is not necessarily feasible. I also know that City Hall sometimes opens. I know there are community partners that sometimes open. But it seems to me that our plan right now is to check Facebook, refresh it, and I'm really concerned about that, especially with the incident of night tornadoes in Tennessee. I feel a little unsafe knowing that for myself and other citizens, the plan is to stay up late. I know sometimes older citizens can't be up until 3 a.m. Sometimes if the power goes out, you won't have internet, you'll just have your weather radio. My mama told me never to complain without a solution though, so as a citizen, something that would make me feel more comfortable is if we had set determined procedures. For example, we know that, say, within an hour of a tornado watch or a flood watch or a cold warning watch being issued by NOAA Morristown, the following places will be open. I think such guidance could also include capacity, whether the shelter is only open to certain areas of town, whether you can or cannot bring pets, information that will help you make informed decisions ahead of time. Now, I know some of the controversies with storm shelters is that oftentimes it's safer for people to remain in their homes during tornado watch. And I think that's all good and well for people who have homes that are safe for a tornado watch, or for people who have the capacity to take care of themselves, who don't have mobility issues, who have any variety of things that means they would be safer in their homes in a tornado watch. But I think that for a lot of residents of Collegedale, that's not the case. Anyway, I think that it would increase people's quality of life. I think it would allow us to make valuable plans ahead of time that people in their individual homes can practice, which would save valuable time in the event of a tornado striking town directly. And I know for myself and other people I've spoken to, it would give us a real sense of peace of mind, which I think is critical to quality of life, especially in days like this, when the weather's 80 yesterday, and then we have a tornado watch, and then we have snow in the morning, So I've been really concerned about the storm preparedness, and I really hope that we can come up with some plans in place to help people feel and be safer. The end of my statement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shall we put that on the agenda for a workshop, or do you have some thoughts on it?
So I would ask if you'll email me your suggestions first. We are working on developing. Oh, that'd be great. Thank you. We are working on developing plans that are more robust and developed. We're not there yet. And so once we get a little further along, we'll also incorporate this feedback. And then if you don't mind.
One of the funnels hit our apartment directly, and our cat's still terrified because he got stuck in a room that the windows blew out of. I'm trying to help him recover, but it's slow.
Yeah.
Not that that's relevant, but again, I'm just nervous.
Thank you. So we are working on it. We do share the concern and agree that we need more robust and a more robust response that is procedure driven, and we're getting there.
So, and one of the things that I saw it on the news, one of the mobile home parks, I think it was Cleveland, they have a tornado shelter that will hold the capacity of everybody in their park. I think it was like 75 people. And I don't know if that's something we want to include that we could address maybe with grindstones or some of the other ones, because unfortunately they get hit the most when it comes to tornadoes as far as damage.
That's weird, isn't it? I mean, it really is.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to make comments now? Seeing none, we'll go on with our agenda then. Our first item in unfinished business is the second reading and a public hearing on ordinance 1103. So I will close the commission meeting and open up the public hearing. Would you read the caption of ordinance 1103, please?
What's it, 1104?
Ordinance 1103, an ordinance to amend the official zoning ordinance of Collegedale, Tennessee by adding a 0 lot line townhouse zoning district.
Okay. Kelly Andrews, do you want to come up and, I don't mean Andrews is his middle name, I'm sorry.
I go by both.
Kelly, would you give us the group here an idea of what this is all all about in case they want to say something?
Absolutely. As you remember, this did go through Planning Commission and then the Board of Commissioners for a first reading. And what the ordinance does is create a new zone, the townhouse zone, which we previously did not have. There was no way to build townhouses in the city without resorting to an R3 zone, which would allow other uses that would not necessarily be appropriate. So this gives the city more control, and it puts us on par with our peers, being unincorporated Hamilton County and City of Chattanooga, and some of the other smaller cities do have a similar zoning district. So we're basically kind of expanding our zoning offerings to accommodate a more moderate density housing for fee simple townhouses. So the lots underneath would be owned. These would not be apartments. These would be would at least have a fee simple lot underneath them. So that's kind of in a nutshell what the ordinance does. So I'll entertain any questions.
Any comments from our audience?
Ready for a motion?
Thank you. I'll close the public hearing and we'll go back to our regular commission meeting. Are there any questions or comments from our commissioners?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for ordinance 1103. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yay.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, we go into our new business. And with the permission of our commissioners, I would like to do number 3 and do that at first, if that's okay with our commissioners. I think we need a motion to do that.
You could just do it by consensus. Unless there's an
Okay.
objection, you just move forward.
Is any objection to that? Okay. Would you read the resolution 530, please? Top heading.
Resolution number 530, a resolution to annex certain territory known as Hamilton County Tax Map Parcel 161067 upon owner request and with written consent of the owner, and to incorporate the same within the corporate boundary of Collegedale, Tennessee.
Okay. Before we go into this, for the benefit of those in our audience, I would like to have our attorney clarify for us the Tennessee annexation laws.
Annexation has changed significantly in the last 4 or 5 years. It used to be that the city could annex upon its own initiative. In other words, if the city thinks annexation is appropriate for the city to do, it can annex on its own initiative by ordinance. And there was a process that you went through to do that. However, the law has changed significantly since then. Basically, annexation, except in very limited circumstances, is just dead. It's no longer where the city can't do it by its own initiative. It has to either be approached by a landowner, which I understand is the situation here with this annexation, or have a situation where there is a petition for a referendum and the people in the area to be annexed vote on that. And so really, we're more reactive than proactive when it comes to annexation now, and it can only be done in a limited circumstance. And in this case, and I may be mistaken, Kelly, but I think the landowner did make a petition to be annexed into the city. What we do is we look at it. The landowner obviously thinks it's in his best interest to annex the property into the city, and it's your job to look at it to see if it's in the city's best interest to do so. And that's where we are on that right now, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
And one more question.
Yes,
My
sir.
understanding is that this properties like this, owners request to be, it needs to be connected to our.
It must be contiguous to the city,
Right.
except in an extremely,
And this is in fact.
it is. And there is a deal where they're in an extremely limited circumstance, we can annex non-contiguous land. And it primarily relates to a situation where there's a industrial development up the road or something like that. And, you know, they're planning on using some of the city's infrastructure or something of that nature. But that is an extremely limited circumstance and certainly not the situation we have here. This is a contiguous piece of property.
I'll ask the Kelly Martin if he will now go over the what is involved with this, and we can make comments or ask questions of him.
Right, and with the city attorney to the left of me, this is in fact an owner-requested annexation. It is contiguous, and annexations are now performed by resolution, and they do take effect upon that. And the public hearing for these types of requests are held such as it would be before a second reading of an ordinance. So this would also be the opportunity for anyone to discuss that. And I do believe the owner and the applicant is here as well. So that really is essentially the question at the heart of Resolution 530 is the annexation and then the provision for the plan of services that the city agrees to provide to the property. And that was included in the packet. And that includes things like the timing of service delivery, utilities, police protection, and things of that nature. And because of the special circumstances of this, I did include some information in there about the conditions when that would become effective, on what conditions would take place for the services to be delivered. Because right now there's a house that is unoccupied there, so it's essentially a vacant piece of property. So we would not, the typical service delivery that we would provide would not necessarily apply directly to this, because it is proposed to be part of the property owner's development plans. So that is why they would be contingent on some of those things happening.
And how large is this piece of property?
It's approximately an acre.
Any other questions or comments?
So what is the other land that it's adjacent to right there, has to do with what's?
Can
already
you
in
talk
Collegedale?
into the
Oh.
mic so you can?
Right there, so that's adjacent, I see the light blue line. So the property on the other side where the darkish gray color is, that is already Collegedale.
That
correct?
is already in the city of Collegedale, and that is property that is owned by the individual who was requesting annexation, also owns that darker piece of property as well.
Okay. So it's my understanding that if this is annexed, whatever the property in itself, that would allow an opening for another entrance into the facilities?
Not necessarily another opening, but this property is simply owned by the same individual or the same entity, and they are proposing to include that in their larger development proposal that's also would be pending for you.
Do we have a copy of that? I
It-
didn't, I know you probably at planning you did, but was it?
It's in our email. It's in our
Yeah.
notes.
Right. I do have a copy of that I can share in the, I think it's later on in the presentation.
That'd be fine.
But-
It's fine.
But as far as the annexation itself and the plan of services, that's the simple question tonight, along with, like I said, the applicant is here if there are any specific questions. And then it does also serve as the public hearing for the action.
So to get to this property, you have to go in off Orchard. Is that correct?
Correct. There's no direct road access now. It's simply through easement. So it does not have public road frontage at this time. But it would be off of Orchard. That's correct.
That's what
But in this annexation, we're not annexing the road itself,
And this,
Orchard.
that's correct. This would not be included. It would not include any public rights of way that do not exist currently.
And does it
Or that do
include
exist
any of
currently.
does it affect any of the property with the tiny house manufacturer?
This annexation would not, no, ma'am.
Okay.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Any further comments or questions?
So there would be no need for us to have garbage service, police service, or anything like that.
Something recorded and all that crap. That's great.
Would that only be
We'll make
if
sure
it
somebody-
were part of the development?
I'm just asking.
I'm sorry, I was
I
in a
asked you a
side,
question, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
I was in a sidebar.
So
Sorry.
this 1 acre lot, we would not be providing any type of garbage service, police service, or anything like that.
No, that was we would eventually, but until it's would be included with the the development on the rest of the property, assuming that takes place, that's when the services would be provided to this property. So the
we'd
city would
have-
not serve garbage or police at this point.
So we'd have to come back and make an amendment to this for the garbage service, police service.
The plan of services was crafted in such that it would automatically become effective as these conditions are met by the property owner.
It was in the document of when these services would go into effect.
It would just extend the property that's already in Collegedale, so.
Yeah, it's all it is.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yay.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. We'll move up then to the first item on our new business. The first reading is ordinance 1104. Would you read that caption, please?
Ordinance 1104, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map to rezone certain properties from AG to R1L, more particularly described as Hamilton County Tax Map 151, parcel 026, and Hamilton County Tax Map 161, parcel 067. Said properties being located within the corporate limits of Collegedale, Tennessee.
This is the same property, obviously, that we discussed as being already owned by the applicant for the annexation request, rather. It's approximately 67.3 acres, currently zoned AG agricultural. And the request is for R1L, which is low-density, single-family. And this is to provide a little bit of context here. The subject property, once again, outlined here. And as far as context, the surrounding zoning is primarily going to be additional areas of agricultural that are located in the city of Collegedale, and A1, which is in unincorporated Hamilton County. Also at the entrance, there is an area of C3 commercial, which is actually in the county. It allows some light manufacturing, which does take place on the property. The balance, as you see to the north, Sandy Trail, which this property is not contiguous with that, does not abut the properties on Sandy Trail, but that is zoned R2 up there. And then the balance of the properties generally in Old Town Appleton are R2A in Hamilton County, and that is basically it's a low-density residential zone that allows properties property lot sizes as small as 25,000 square feet off of sewer, or what Hamilton County groundwater provides if that, or requires if that is a larger area for a septic system. If it is on sewer, it allows lots down to 7,500 square feet. So that's kind of gives you a context of what's in the area, both in the city of Collegedale and unincorporated Hamilton County and Old Town Appleton. This accompanies the next ordinance that we will you will consider, and which is a PUD overlay plan unit development. So the underlying zone that is being requested is R1L, and which allows a maximum density up to 5 units per acre. But the applicant is not requesting a density that high. It doesn't exceed 3. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So this really is approved in 2 stages: the underlying zone and then the overlay for the plan unit development.
So what density are they requesting?
It's around 2.39, 2.4 units per acre. Density to the north at R2 on Sandy Trail exceeds this, and other, there's nothing adjacent to this, but in other areas in Hamilton County nearby have been over 3 units per acre, in the low 3s per acre, that have been approved in the county recently. So that's just kind of the context there. Nothing adjacent to this, but nearby, yes.
How do you compare that to Barnsley down here off Ooltewah Ringo Road?
This is less than Barnsley. Barnsley is around 3 gross units per acre, a little over 3, because of the 50 acres of preserved area that's on White Oak Mountain. This property is slightly, the developed area on this one is slightly less, but it does include slightly fewer houses or gross density per acre, because of some of the preserved areas here as well. So it's roughly similar, but it does have a lower density overall, gross density, than Barnsley Park.
So the density level does not mean every acre can only have 3 or 4 houses. It says the total number of acres divided by a certain number is what you're looking at, correct?
Right, that includes the buildable and unbuildable areas and areas that are buildable and set aside for preservation.
I think that's important for us to be aware of. The pink area, how's that separate from the blue? The blue is what we're talking about as far as changing the
The zone.
Right, the pink area, the pink area is the zoning that demonstrates the zoning in Old Town Appleton.
well, it's in Old Town.
Yeah, all the pink is in Old Town Appleton.
That's not anything we're dealing with.
No, that's just the context for the surrounding zoning.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
And this is for the, is this for the PUD overlay,
No, this is
This-
for the zoning,
the zoning?
The base zoning, that's correct.
R1L.
And as a reminder to the commission, this is only the first reading of this ordinance. It's you're going to have 2 readings. The second reading will be the reading that you have your public hearing.
And that'll be January 18.
I believe that's correct.
Well, it won't be 2 weeks from tonight because that's Martin Luther King
January
Day.
17, isn't it?
So, no, we don't meet on that
17th
day.
is
Our meeting is on Tuesday night that week
That's right.
which would be the 18th.
because of the holiday on Monday.
So that falls January 18th, that's which one?
Yeah, it falls on January 18th.
And the big blue property is already in the city of Collegedale?
That's correct.
So it's already been part of the city for a while?
It's already part of the city, that's correct.
It's been part of the city for a while.
The yellow property just to the west and is also in the city of Collegedale. This is R2, just as a point of information, and that was a PUD that was approved a number of years ago, but that property has subsequently been placed into a land trust, and it is being preserved as for Bauxite Ridge. That's the Bauxite Ridge property that the university maintains.
So this new one would be the same as what's in green there.
Yeah, yes, it would be the same zoning classification as the green area. That's correct.
Okay.
The typical uses in R1L are single-family detached homes, but with a planned unit development overlay, the ordinance also would allow single-family detached homes, more flexibility in lot sizes, and it would allow townhomes and carriage homes as well. So it really provides more flexibility for subdivision design and layout. And so that's, but it also, it's a carrot and string. The city's ordinance also requires certain amenities that would be provided within the development. Open space among others.
Okay.
I want to thank the applicant and landowner for the opportunity to have you guys invest in our community. You guys see a value in what we're doing here in Collegedale, and we thank you for that. So with that, I move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions?
So none of this discussion will discuss the concern over access, getting in and out of the new subdivision.
The following action, the following ordinance does discuss that. And as a point, and with Sam here as well, you may want to consider making that motion or amending that motion to be contingent on the conditions in the ordinance 1105.
Well, the ordinance is, I mean, the conditions are written into the ordinance, aren't they?
In 1105, they're
Oh.
they're specifically laid out, so.
So they're
That-
specifically laid out that they would have a entrance. or-
Right.
I mean, on the overlay.
The overlay has the more robust, so a contingency on that might be
On that passing, is that what you're saying?
correct.
So, I think Commissioner White made the motion, so an appropriate motion would be to withdraw your motion and make a motion to approve it, subject to the conditions set forth in ordinance 1105.
I will withdraw and make my motion to approve, subject to conditions being met in ordinance 1105.
Is the second okay with that?
And I'll take my second and move it over to that second motion.
And remember that this is the first reading, not the second.
Yeah.
Right.
And for those in the audience, we will discuss that more in our next motion, so that you maybe have some understanding of what our attorney was talking about. Okay, any further discussion before we vote? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes,
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. Okay, our next item is the first reading of ordinance 1105. Would you read that caption, please?
Ordinance 1105, an ordinance to approve a planned unit development overlay for certain properties more particularly described as Hamilton County Tax Map 151, Parcel 026, and Hamilton County Tax Map 161, Parcel 067, said properties being located within the corporate limits of Collegedale, Tennessee.
Okay, Mr. Martin.
Yes, this is the companion ordinance that we discussed earlier. And so more specifically, what is being proposed is 161 total lots, 118 of those would be single-family detached, 43 fee simple townhouses, gross density 2.39 units per acre. And the site context, Orchard Drive access, these were taken in on a warmer day, obviously. Orchard Drive access from the south is the top picture. In the middle is the adjacent property to the south and west. And the adjacent property, the C3 that was mentioned previously, is pictured in the final photograph on the bottom. So just to give you a little more context where these are located, the property just adjacent is in that location where the arrow is pointing. Right at the entrance where the yellow sign is, where the arrow is pointing there on Orchard Drive, and the Wind River Manufacturing, tiny homes right there at near where the arrow is. This gives you approximate location where that picture was taken.
so in that picture, the one up in the top right, that road right there is currently Orchard Drive, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's the current state of Orchard Drive.
That's the railroad track behind it.
Yeah.
But does it also curve and continue on over toward First Street?
Orchard Drive does. It's almost a right angle there. So basically it's a sharp left turn onto itself here. And that does lead down to First Street, which then in turn leads to Old East Brainerd Road, which leads to East Brainerd Road. Or that also leads back toward, actually, I may have another slide toward the end that may explain this as well. But it does provide access, Currently, the access would be East Brainerd Road, Old East Brainerd Road, First Avenue, Orchard Drive back to the point of entrance, or Orchard Drive back to Bill Jones and to Appleson Pike, or even First Street under the railroad on out, and the East Brainerd Road a little further down.
But there's still just one entrance into this development.
Correct. If the unit count exceeded 200 or got significantly close to that, and particularly if it did exceed 200, the fire marshal with TRICOM would require a secondary access point.
Has the fire marshal and them approved this entrance so far?
To my understanding, that yes, and the applicant is here for these particular questions, so I would refer you to the applicant for any of those questions.
Please. And introduce yourself to the group.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Mike Price, MAP Engineer, 7380 Applegate Lane, Chattanooga. So in working through with staff, and this is a unique situation where the property falls inside the city limits. However, the access comes to the county. So we worked with the fire marshal and with the county highway department and with the county engineering department. And through that, we were able to work through a plan to improve Orchard Drive to meet the satisfaction of the fire marshal as it relates to access, and also with the county highway department and engineering department also concurred. So we developed engineered plans for the proposed improvements. They have been signed off by both the fire marshal, highway department, and county engineering department. So that portion has been completed, even though the development, as it relates to internally, we have not finished those plans, but we knew and recognized we had to get the access issues worked out first.
So is it, they're going to widen this Orchard Drive?
We will be widening Orchard Drive to a minimum of 20 feet at one portion. The rest of it is essentially 26 feet in width.
And are you at the point that's coming from Bill Jones area road? I'm not saying the right road. As you come out and you go down to, I forgot the name of
Macaulay
that.
Avenue?
Huh?
Macaulay Avenue?
Macaulay?
Correct.
So that is the portion that you have made arrangements to widen and make it easier to get in and for the traffic.
Correct. We're coming from Macaulay, and the reason that we're coming in that particular direction, if you take Orchard Drive where it currently comes and then turns, it essentially becomes a very narrow, one-way only, and just depends upon who gets there first, decides which way is one way, coming down through there. So we recognize that coming out to Macaulay was going to be the main access point. We also felt that that was important because in the event that the train is in service, that closes off your access to get to Appleson Pike, but you can continue through downtown Appleson and work your way under the trestle and work your way then back to Appleson Pike so that you're not held up as it relates to access if one's wanting to come back in that direction. So, and those roads into there all are, again, meeting county requirements as it relates to access.
So how much of Orchard is going to be improved and widened?
So essentially,
Where?
the work begins a little west of Macaulay, essentially in the curve, almost beginning right there where you see Appleson Auto. And if you, right there at Macaulay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So about halfway up, we start the road widening about in through there, and that continues all the way along Orchard Drive to the entrance, which will be located at the intersection of Orchard Drive and Orchard Drive. So right there at that 90-degree turn. That would
So
be the entrance.
before it starts widening, it's going to be 20 feet wide.
It's a little bit of a weird scenario in that what happens is Orchard Drive necks down in the curve right there where the first arrow to the right is located. It narrows down there. And so as you come back out towards Macaulay, it sort of widens back out in that section. So we're really, for very little work is required there. Majority of our work will require sort of that left-hand turn and then coming all the way down Orchard Drive to the point where it turns at a 90-degree.
Are you gonna take both sides of the road or just mine?
So this is not a public hearing, so we don't have to answer that.
Yeah, if you could hold that question until we have our public hearing 2 weeks from now, we would appreciate it.
So
Thanks.
are you using right-of-way?
No, the current right-of-way is there that they'll be taking of no one's property in through there. Now, just so that everyone is clear, and if it's all right for the commission to me to go into a little bit more detail, as it relates to some of the houses directly across from Orchard Drive, there are mailboxes that will need to be relocated. Those will be done at the developer's expense, but there's no taking of land. The right-of-way is there. We tried to minimize the impacts to our neighbors. We didn't really want to do anything more than what was necessary to provide the proper and safe access. So no land is being taken of anyone, and any impacts as it relates to like a mailbox, or that's about all that I saw out that way that I could think of. Those will be relocated and kept in service for those residents that are there.
I don't remember. Is there fire hydrants out there?
Yeah.
That they can feed off of?
There are, but essentially what will be happening is when the subdivision is developed, we will be providing those services internally at a more condensed spacing to meet the city of Collegedale's requirements as well as the fire marshals.
But that one around the corner, it'll still have to be relocated somewhere very close for these current residents, right?
When you say relocated,
Well, it's right in the middle of, it's right at the end of Orchard going down west.
so there is a fire hydrant there and we will be relocating that, but we probably are going to relocate it like 15 or 20 feet,
Okay.
something
But
like
you're
that.
not going to just move it into the subdivision or something. These people will still have,
They will still have adequate fire service off that hydrant. Yes, sir.
So the portion that's outside of our jurisdiction, the road, has already met the county standards and has been approved by the county for this project.
That is correct.
It's not a waiting game or whatnot.
No, it was one of the things where, as we were looking at trying to gain the PUD approval and working with staff said, well, yes, we can deal with issues obviously inside the city, but this is an issue that has to be addressed coming into the development, and that's outside our jurisdiction. So you need to get these issues worked out in order to allow the rest of the PUD plan to move forward, because we don't want to approve a PUD plan contingent upon you getting county approvals. You need to get the cart, not before the horse. Let's get the horse and the cart in the right order. So that's the route that we then proceeded with.
So two quick questions. So Sandy Trail is not contiguous to this property. So there's really no way to go over Sandy Trail as an alternative.
The only way that, well, there was a plan at one point that looked at that, but we have reduced the footprint and reduced the size area, so we no longer have access coming there off of Sandy Trail. The other concern is, do we really want to introduce a lot of traffic coming over a currently unsignalized intersection over Sandy Trail? Safety standpoint then became an issue, but also the cost to upgrade that is no small number. So it ended up in the grand scheme of things that we were better off to reduce the footprint, and we will determine if there's an appropriate plan to deal with the other portion of the property at a later date, if at all.
but Sandy Trail will not be a part of this project.
That's correct.
Okay.
And unfortunately, if you had a one-way into Sandy Trail and no other access, you couldn't get emergency vehicles over there, police, fire, ambulance service, if it was just a one-way entrance.
You'd have to incorporate
Yep.
more land
Yep.
in order to achieve that. And currently, and I'm sure you all are aware of this, but with a PUD, one of the conditions becomes access. So another access point cannot be added to this plan unless it comes back before the staff and then this body for approval.
It's been mentioned to me that there's some historical markers near the entrance that you're looking at. Have you come across those? And if you have, what do you plan to do with them?
Well, I'm not aware of any. I've not seen any at that particular location. I guess if it depends on who is the proper owner, I guess would receive those. If
It
you
was something to do with some of the original homes that were there.
have not run across anything on that. If there's anything of historical significance, then I'm sure it would be dealt with in the proper manner, but I'm not aware of anything, or that's first I've heard of that as it
Okay.
relates to something that might be there.
And I guess the definition of historical.
Well, yes, that some people do deem things more historical than others. I've kind of run into that with Christmas coming up, or just finishing up in terms of what ornaments to keep and which ones to get rid of. So yes.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I've got one more question. With Orchard being expanded or, to meet the county requirements, when would you see you taking care of that project in relationship to the PUD being put together?
So what we would see is in working through the construction documents for the rest of the development, and again, since we already have the approvals from the county,
Right.
we would probably try to sequence those in a manner that makes sense while we have equipment on site to do the work at the appropriate time, that we keep access in through there. So I don't really know when from a timing standpoint, but if that's an issue that staff has, that they want to see that sooner rather than later, then I'm certain we could achieve that.
It seems like since it's a one lane, it's a very narrow road already. It'd be very, very helpful to everybody. The sooner that got done, the better, to me anyway. So it could actually be there while they're bringing big dump trucks through or whatever you're hauling through there, that there would be adequate access from the property owners in the area. Because right now, it's very, very narrow behind that Butler building. And I would really like to see that as part of our motion maybe this evening, that we get that done before we start or during the early stages of the land development, rather than waiting until it's ready to move on in. Is there any sense to that logic, or is it?
No, I think that has some logical sense in terms of, as the construction takes place. Normally what takes place with a subdivision of this size is you move equipment in, and all that equipment essentially, for the most part, stays on site during the grading portion. Really where you start seeing construction traffic of much, much greater magnitude is when the houses start going vertical. So certainly well before that, we'd want to have that taken care of and widened. The other thing that, since you mentioned the Butler building, which is the tiny houses, part of what we wanted to see, and we worked out an agreement with the tiny homes ownership, is to place landscaping down there to camouflage, hide, whatever word you want to use, to doll up the look and the entrance in through there. So that will actually be part of this development, sort of beautification, if you will, the area to create a much more aesthetic entrance coming into the development.
What about the house on the opposite side?
Well, we're not planning on doing any landscaping in anyone else's yards.
No, I meant along the road, like you were going to do with the other side.
We don't anticipate doing any sort of landscape, because the impacts there will be minimal in terms of just doing a little bit of pavement widening is really what we see occurring on the opposite side.
I think that
I was just gonna
Commissioner Baker had a comment, and then I have something to say.
just piggybacking off of this a little bit. We were talking about Orchard and widening it in order to get access in there. Then after it's all said and done, 'cause that's going to be a lot of wear and tear on a new widened road. So after you're through, are you going to come back, maybe repair the road to make it into good standing? Because with all the traffic going through your equipment, of course, I could probably come in a different way, but making sure the road is, I want to say, what's the word I'm looking for?
In good order.
In good order. Thank you very much.
Well, certainly we don't want to beat up road that is the main entrance as one's coming into the development. We will work with Hamilton County Highway Department as it relates to that.
Okay.
Typically, roads such as this during construction, sometimes there are points that need repair. And so we work with the Highway Department, and we will obviously maintain that road in a manner with them that works for both those and the residents.
Because that's my concern, because I know when you have the big trucks and things like that have to go through, weather and whatever, the wear and tear on it. I know that you want to make it look good afterwards and so forth, but even for the people that it's not bumpy to go through.
We certainly want it serviceable as far as that goes. Yes, ma'am.
I have a concern I had when this project was originally brought to us a few months ago. You have 160 units approximately. That's going to put around 320, 350 cars coming and going through there. And that has concerned me from the beginning when you brought the project, and it concerns me now. Do you have a date goal in mind as when the project may be completed so that we know that Appleton Pike and East Brainerd Road may be completed so that we're not putting in 300 plus cars onto our neighbors of the Appleton area?
So from a timing standpoint, the development itself, given this number of homes, is going to take a number of years. First step is going to be getting the roads paved and the grading operations complete. Ideally, that would be finished sometime around October of this year. So no house is going vertical. Typically, you see 40 to 50 houses a year is about what you're able to build in most developments that we see. So that's somewhere 3 years afterwards. So you're talking build out being 4 years out. Appleton Pike will be complete by that point. I'm really hoping, since I drive it pretty much every day or thereabouts. As it relates to East Brainerd Road, those improvements, I know that the state will be looking at begin purchasing right-of-way towards the end of this year and into next. Probably construction there will not be complete for another 4 to 5 years. That's taking it from where it currently ends at Banks Road up to where the Morning Point facility is on East Brainerd Road. So we probably will trail that completion by several years. But Appleton Pike, as I see it, is going to be the main access that most people are going to use. And having where I live less than a mile from here, that's my main access point coming out. And I'm sure other residents that would be here would be doing the same thing.
Okay.
So this is going to be on city sewer.
Correct.
And my understanding, all these houses most of them are going to be on grinder pumps.
They will be on grinder pumps, yes, sir. It will be the responsibility of the way that we have, which is new to me, but it made a lot of sense, is brought by City Engineer Hines, is that we will have a homeowners association that will oversee the maintenance of all of the grinder pumps. So instead of an individual who may or may not know how to deal with a grinder pump if it goes out, the subdivision collectively, the homeowners association, then can enter into a contract with the plumbing company. And so all they do is call Joe's Plumbing Service and, hey, we've got a grinder pump that's out because the light went off or alarm went off. And so that really made a lot of sense to me, that would create a community that has the ability to maintain a system without the individuals being overly burdened as it relates to that requirement.
And same thing if electricity goes out for 4 or 5 days due to snow, storms, or whatever.
The good thing,
Are they
and
gonna be
so,
battery operated?
for instance, my home, I'm on a grinder, and not that we've had power out that long, but I've actually had experience when we had the snowstorm of '92 and when I lived at that time with my parents. So there was about 4 to 5 days capacity in the wet well. And typically you have that capacity in the event that power goes out. And you're generally not taking showers, right? Not using the dishwasher or washing machine. So your usage goes way down.
You don't know my wife.
Well, she's got to figure out how to get the power to work though. See, that's the problem.
Okay.
All right, that's all the questions I have.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
And if I might just add just one thing, for those that are here having questions in the community, I will be here after the meeting if they'd like to answer any questions that might save them a a trip in 2 weeks.
Mike, it's a good idea for you to be here in 2 weeks.
I plan on being here in 2 weeks too. I'm just saying, though, there might be questions I could address that might save them a trip in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate that, and I'm sure they do as well. Okay, do you have something else to want to bring to us, Kelly?
The summary, staff shared many of the concerns that we have discussed here tonight already that you all have mentioned, and then others have mentioned as well. We're looking at the surrounding land use and the concern about access, just like you are. But based on that information, we find that the revised PUD, which is before you tonight, compared to what was originally submitted, more fully adheres to the intent of the overlay. R1L is a more restrictive zone. There are similar development types within the vicinity. They're not adjacent, but they are in the vicinity. And that the density that is proposed is far short of the prevailing density of new developments that have been approved in Hamilton County. So staff does recommend approval at this point of the request, subject to the following conditions to mitigate impacts on the surrounding development. So those are going to be hard to read, but these are being included. Collegedale
They're stated in the body of the ordinance.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
So this is just kind of the high points that Collegedale Board of Commissioners approval resolution 530. So that obviously would be a preliminary step and primary step, actually. Uses limited to single-family detached dwellings, accessory uses, fee simple townhomes, community open space. Gross density would be capped at 2.4 dwelling units per acre or 161. That doesn't preclude them from going anywhere under that, but they can't not go over it. Attached multifamily buildings would be prohibited. Ingress egress shall be through Orchard Drive, and Orchard Drive shall be improved according to the provided plans and approved by Hamilton County. Building permits or certificates of occupancy shall not be issued unless and until TDEC approves the proposed low-pressure sewer system that was just discussed, and/or the City of Collegedale approves the connection of such a system. Curb gutter, catch basins, street lights, sidewalk installed per subdivision construction plans approved by city engineer. Street lighting maintained by HOA if it were utilized in lieu of the typical mailboxes because of the Postal Service's policies. Existing trees shall be preserved to the greatest extent possible. A 10-foot minimum site obscuring landscape buffer consisting of trees, shrubs, etc., shall be installed along portions of the exterior boundary of the planned unit development abutting Hamilton County tax parcels following, which would provide some of that additional screening that I know at least one nearby property owner is voluntarily allowing. This would be on the development itself. Use of sound mitigation techniques such as building insulation, fencing, vegetative buffers along the Norfolk Southern Railroad. So these are the conditions that we have at the present. If there are any more, I know we did have some discussion about that tonight. Of course, that is an open possibility.
And that's currently in the ordinance.
Yeah, you don't have to make a
Okay.
motion to
Right.
approve subject to those conditions because it's written in the ordinance.
The thing that comes to mind is that with the county already approving this, if this subject property was already in the county, it would be safe to assume the county would have approved this development, correct? I mean, growth is coming to Appleton regardless, and that happened 20 years ago when the state decided to put 5 lanes through there and make a connector to Dalton Bypass in the future. It's awesome that this opportunity presents itself for us, the city of Collegedale, who we represent. I applaud the developers for going above and beyond making this work for this community. I mean, I was on the planning commission when you guys came the first time, and this was a lot more houses, a lot more dense, and we didn't have a plan to go down one-way streets, or it had more impact on the Appleton community. So thank you to the developers, the property owners, and the city staff for getting us the product that we have right now. The 3 lanes minimum coming off of Appleton Pike that will be 5, and the East Brenner Road access shows that growth is coming, and it was decided a long time ago. With that, I want to move to approve this overlay.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further comments or questions?
My final thing is, I definitely know the quality work Mike does and who he works with and the company. So I trust that this is going to be the same quality that we've always gotten from Mike. So. Did you second?
Yes, I did.
It's not proud. That's it.
That's all? I just want Collegedale to be good neighbors. And that's my major concern here, that what we're doing today is going to affect generations to come. And I just want Collegedale to be a good neighbor to our surrounding communities. So with that, we have a motion and a second. With no further discussion, roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Garver, Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yay.
Mayor Land.
Yay. Regretfully. Okay,
May I make one comment?
sure.
I think as long as I have lived in Collegedale, we have always obtained Collegedale that I know to work with those around us, and we have been good neighbors. You know, but that works two ways. And so that's something that we have to get together. And I think under this situation that we're looking at right here, number one, the gentleman has the right to have, as it's requested by the law, to have his land, that 1 acre annexed, whether he's building on it or not. The fact that he's got the development, he has the right to ask that, and according to our policies and standards, not just ours, but state, we need to do that and approve that. I think therefore going down like we've worked, the planning commission and our staff have worked diligently to make it as best as it could be for all parties concerned. Our main priority, I do believe that we should be friendly. I do believe we should work with our neighbors, but we have an obligation to our citizens. And I think as a commissioner, we have to maintain that. And if we can do that in a peaceful and way that there's a win-win situation, I think that's the logical thing to do. I can understand the concerns in Appleton and the people. I mean, I can understand about this, but what I see here and the plan that I see here, it's not as evasive as I thought it was going to be, and that it is a good plan to see. And as citizens, as commissioners for this city, then it's our responsibility to make sure that they carry it out according to what they have laid out here, unless there's some other type of improvement that we need to go forward. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think, and Mr. Price and other developers will say Collegedale's regulations and application process is a lot more stringent and our requirements are a lot higher. And a better product comes out of being in the city of Collegedale, to your expense, but to the betterment of the community around it. So I think the planning commission and our codes and our city planners to keeping Collegedale at a high standard. So it's not just thrown places without planned development. So thank you.
Okay, we'll go on with our agenda. Fourth item is the VC3 contract approval.
So this is a contract with VC3 to do an IT assessment. They will go in, they will assess where we are based on our network, our computing, what we have and what we need for state of practice. And then they will lay out a multi-year plan for us to move to state of practice and address some of our opportunities for improvement. It's for a total of $25,154.20. As you know, we had budgeted for IT this year. This is a third of what we had budgeted. And like I said, it will then roll into next year. They will produce a plan so that we can budget out what we need to do next year.
So this will just be a plan,
Correct, an assessment and a
not
plan.
any hardware.
Correct. We have to find our starting point.
Okay.
And there are some interesting things that we need to fully understand before we can put together the most cost-effective plan.
How many bids did you get, or did you check other options for looking at that?
This is a sole source based on their bread and butter is municipal IT infrastructure.
So all these emails that I get, I can delete them now?
Yes.
If we go with this contract?
Yes.
Good.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this contract. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. Our next item is the gas easement approval.
So this is for the Scooters property. The gas company has some concerns over construction methodology. And so this is a revised easement agreement to address those concerns.
Is it going to slow down the construction?
We have been slowed down for a couple of weeks. This will get us started again.
Okay.
So this is related to the pipeline that's underground already.
Yes.
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. Now we have reports from our city administration.
So the biggest thing is that our community survey is kicking off Friday. I believe you have a flyer for that, and you'll start seeing more online as that rolls out. This was the Polko survey that was approved several months back, so it'll be getting started shortly. And that feeds into our long-term strategic plan.
Okay. Any questions about it? Is this something we need to vote on?
No.
Okay.
It's just a-
Will it go out like this or in a postcard?
So there will be some postcards, there will be some mailers, and items like this will be through our social media.
Okay.
And these are randomly selected of our residents as well as our stakeholders?
Residents, yes.
Just the residents?
Who does the random selection?
Polko, that was the company we hired to do it.
Okay.
They're another company that this is their bread and butter for municipalities, is
Okay.
these community surveys for strategic plans.
So
So
it's actually independent.
Yes.
So what about our stakeholders? Don't they have a say in it? Our businesses?
Not through the survey, but we have reached out to them through other methods.
Okay, I don't want to leave them out. Okay, anything else?
That's it this week.
Comments from our commissioners? Commissioner White?
I just want to thank, echo what Mr. Bartow said, and thank city staff, those that were involved in the donation drive for the Mayfield community in northwestern Tennessee, Obion and Lake County. I was overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that we got. I helped sort and different things like that, and it was impressive, the quality, not just the amount, but the quality of the clothing and gifts that were given. And I think it speaks very high of our community. I spoke to several state representatives and state senators and the Speaker of House's office, and they were very thankful for, and spoke to the governor about this, and they were very thankful that our community stepped up. And my family was affected in the Easter storms, as the lady spoke about. So I want to echo her concern for not having a storm shelter, because that night that the storm was going on, we weren't necessarily ready to open up. We didn't have a plan in place on how to. We did open up, and there were several members of the community that were here. So I think it'd be very important, as weather systems are changing and we're seeing more and more tornadoes, that we have a good game plan. So that was nice of her to bring that. Also, big thank you to the Public Works Department, and it's probably been done for a while, but this is the first time I've noticed. The light at Lee Highway and Edgemont Road flashes yellow instead of having to wait there whenever there's no traffic coming. So that was very, very nice to come across yesterday or over the weekend. So very thankful to you guys for getting on that.
Several months late there, Ethan.
You'll have
I don't always go that
Yeah, it's been
direction,
there for a
so
while.
have to be more
I don't go to
observant.
that part of the county that, or the city that side, that way.
It's a
So
huge blessing, though.
It is.
that's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Garver?
Happy New Year. Looking forward to a great year. And hallelujah. Let's go.
Commissioner Baker?
I would just like to, I'm just going to cap on that about the, how grateful I am to David and and Commissioner White and them and all the community for responding the way they did. And I wish everyone a happy new year, hopefully a safe and a healthy one. And that's all I'm going to say at this time. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to reserve the right for later.
I'll make a note on that.
Yeah, hold it to it.
Vice Mayor?
I have no comment.
It's nice for us to all be together again. I've missed our contact over the last holiday time and everything. And I just, again, want to say thank you to David and his group for doing that. And that's all I have. Do we have
Move to adjourn.
Second.
we're adjourned. It's the longest meeting we've